Hello, my name is Júlio Santos, and I am a technical co-founder at Fractal. We are right now hard at work building the Fractal Protocol, which will enable radical data markets and help keep the web free and open for all. And joining me today is Gilbert Hill. He is an investor and advisor at Swash, who is doing great things. And we're all working on related solutions, so I'm very, very happy that you took the time to join us here today, Gilbert. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of like what brought you into crypto? What put you on this path that you are now?
Sure. Well, it's great to be here and really nice to meet you, Julio. In terms of who I am, I'm a privacy technologist and an entrepreneur, as you say, and I've got a track record of kind of getting into things by mistake. So about 5 years ago, I got into privacy by mistake. I was running a London web development agency, and we were building lots of cookie-enabled solutions, so which fitted into the kind of ad tech stack. So, destination websites when we started building, obviously, mobile applications for a lot of big brands. And it was via the introduction of the EU cookie laws about 6 years ago that we became dimly aware of what was happening. We viewed cookies as simply tools, like small snippets of code that help with personalization, things like that. But obviously, they're part of this huge. They had a dual purpose to create profiles and track people across the internet. And we realized that we had a risk overhead from this, and also that we were kind of complicit in it, and we didn't really sit right with us. So we ended up pivoting that business into a SaaS business, building tools for website owners to audit their cookies, categorize them, and disclose their risk via the hated cookie banner. So you can partly blame me for that. And that sort of got me started down the road. And we ended up selling that business to a company called OneTrust around the time that GDPR became really big, and things like dashboarding and privacy tech or PrivTech suddenly was being absorbed into kind of the enterprise software space. But I knew that I wanted to do something that had impact on consumers, because at the moment, we're all the product, right? And so about 2 years ago, I became aware of a product called, or a team building a product called Tap My Data, which was using the blockchain. Because one of the big problems that I discovered was, that is evident, is that with GDPR, every company needs to respect rights, but they're all marking their own homework in terms of, like, if you hold my data as an organization, I ask you for that data, you give it back to me, but you manage that process. And the only way that a regulator knows whether you're doing a good job or not is whether I complain or not. So the kind of game is loaded against people to, so you have a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, what really excited me about what they and other projects are doing was using the blockchain, in that case, the Stellar blockchain, as a central statement of record. So when I ask for my data, a transaction is made to record that. And that meant that could start to be, you could marry that with a bit of consumer grade tech, which was the other thing that's missing. So with a mobile app, you could start to make requests, exercise your GDPR rights. So I went on, from privacy, I then got into the crypto world by mistake.
Those are great mistakes so far.
Mistakes are where it's at for me. So that's definitely the way I move forward. And that's how I met the team at Swash. We were both on the Outlier Ventures Accelerator, which was a fantastic experience. We were both part of their cohort last summer. So we both went through the kind of boot camp of refining our offering, and also getting exposure to some of the greatest living exponents of Web3, which is it's such an exciting time. And I got more and more excited about what the team at Swash were doing, and how that fitted into what we at Tap My Data were doing, and the other things which were emerging, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, from the DeFi space.
Got it. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you a few questions about Swash, because I'd like to explore that a little bit more. So, I only heard about it back in February. I don't really know how, but only in February. And the reason it happened was because we had our token launch event at Fractal, and I had a keynote there, and somebody watched that keynote and sent me a link to your blog post. We're like, you have to meet these guys. They're doing something so similar. So I followed the link. I checked out the blog post, and it mentioned Jaron Lanier and data as labor and data union. So all of the good stuff that is a huge impetus, like a huge motivation for me, like to explore this space here. Like Jared Leonard in particular, I read his book Once the Future shortly after it came out, completely blew my mind. I was so unaware of so much of the stuff that he was talking about. And for me, it's fascinating to be able to now work in this area and help make progress here. And it's very, very good to see how many of us see the same fairer, better future and are working towards it. So let's talk a little bit about Swash then. Like, why was it started, and what was the value proposition? Like, how did that go in the beginning?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Swash is a browser extension, and it was created back in 2019. And it's it's probably, you know, if not the first, one of the first, the world's first digital data union, and that was built on the Streamer platform. And you know, since then, the Swash community's grown rapidly, and I think it's, you know, become a preeminent data union really in the European space. So it was launched at MozFest. I remember, like you, I was actually in the audience at MozFest, and I saw the Swash launch and thought, those guys think exactly the same way as I am, which is great because, like you were talking about, when I started off in like kind of privacy, people thought we were nuts, you know, that this is just the way it's always been, and people want to be, you know, kind of bought and sold on the web. And that, you know, it was this exciting thing to think that there, you know, there were people who had, you know, had the same idea, and that's been vindicated by the fact, you know, Swash has now got around, you know, 60,000 users worldwide and growing. And the, you know, the Swash ecosystem, it's basically built on four key principles. So the first one being, you know, to incentivize people. But, you know, remember when we were talking about rights, you know, at the moment, there's not much incentive for you to like go and ask a company for your data or to change the way that things work at the moment with data. You know, you are cracked on the head when you join a VPN or you click yes on one of those cookie banners, and your data is taken away and is monetized. Now, what Swash wanted to do was provide a way for users to get paid for the value of their data, and also, you know, to put it to good use through, you know, collective investment in social organizations. Because again, at the moment, it's a very kind of sort of a nuclear choice that your money, your data gets monetized and it gets taken away from you. You know, I may want to make the choice or have it made for me via a union to donate it to a charity, or, you know, or to withhold my data from a particular you know, organization if it's a, you know, say like the NRA or a right-wing, you know, publication. And, you know, I guess what that's talking about is the next principle, which is around access, because you know, it's hard for us as individuals to access our data, and it's also hard to access you know, high quality, you know, first and zero party data for businesses and data scientists. So there's so much, you know, data's been continuing to explode. Most of the data in the world was created in the last couple of years post GDPR, so it hasn't stopped this, you know, data arms race. But it's hard to, you know, but it's been centralized. And then, you know, the other aspect, if a pillar is, you know, to build and encourage developers and other entrepreneurs to join, you know, a kind of a confederation. We were talking earlier, you know, always with the Star Wars analogies, but like, you know, a a rebel alliance of like data solutions and builders. And then finally, you know, to collaborate and work alongside other, you know, Web3 ecosystem partners to, you know, avoid rebuilding, you know, silos and have interoperability and mass adoption at scale. And, you know, I think what it's doing is addressing some of these, you know, real issues with, you know, the Web 2, you know, or the, you know, the data economy as it stands, which is that, you know, our consumers, you know, our data and attention have become the product, while the benefit of all the free stuff on the web has long ago been outstripped by like all this, you know, the data and the wealth that's been amassed by, you know, you mentioned it, you know, 60% of, you know, data is centralized in a couple of platforms. And, you know, despite my past role in, you know, propagating cookie banner technology, I'm really frustrated with the lack of progress beyond this most basic tool for individual data control. So, you know, at the moment we all click banners and we're served legal disclaimers every day without believing that our rights are really being respected. And as we were just saying, you know, the current system doesn't serve consumers of data well. You've got rife ad fraud rates that are above 50%, and each organization has to comply with GDPR equally. So, a disproportionate burden falls on smaller businesses, social enterprises and startups. And I think what's exciting about Swash is that it's putting consumer grade tech, a web plugin that you can install in seconds and start earning from realistically in a matter of days. You can start to accrue some income, but it's focusing as well on existing patterns of behavior, which is browsing. So many projects have struggled in the past because they've had to educate people to use a whole new piece of kit, a whole new interface, and it just hasn't worked. So they've had to be continually propped up by public investment, and they've become kind of niche products. So with Swash, the friction to acquire users is really low, which is how they've been able to build a really healthy user base with very little outbound marketing historically. So both you and I heard about them in different communities, developer communities or in the crypto communities, and it both caught our imagination. So that's what's really exciting. The reason I'm helping Swash as an advisor is I think we really are of that time now, that we've moved from disbelief and then distrust amongst the existing ad tech ecosystem to a situation where they realize they have to do things differently.
Got it. Thank you. And what kind of data does the Swash collect, and perhaps more importantly, not collect about its users?
Well, what's interesting is that the Swash gives users choice at the outset, so you can decide what kind of data you want to share. The data is it captures a number of different platforms, so all the usual social platforms that you can imagine. It captures the kind of metrics which are used as data points now by the existing ad tech stack. So duration, search results, etc. But at the start of the relationship, you can set what you are and aren't happy with, and you can also there's things. It gives a lot of tools which I was familiar with as kind of back-end elements of sophisticated content management systems and ad tech products into the hands of a consumer, so that you can do things like set a delay between the data being issued, and also you have the opportunity.
Is that so you have time to review?
Exactly. So you have the opportunity to review both when that data gets sent out and to whom it gets sent, and so you can, and also the types of the data. So that gives, realistically, is every one of those 60,000 users of Swash going to be playing with all those preferences all the time? No, but the key difference is that you have got the tools to manage that yourself before it gets pushed out there into the ad tech ecosystem. And we all know that once it's out there, in the Lumascape, the Lumascape doubled in size again last year.
The old double again.
Yeah, exactly. But once it's out there, it's out. And the law of unintended consequences means that you do not know how it's starting to impact you in terms of your life choices, availability of products which may make the difference between you getting a new home loan, getting a new job, or even seeing a new job, as AI is more and more prevalent. So it's a really important counterbalance. And when you blend that with data unions, that becomes really powerful, because again, the problem that you've had with lots of priv tech is that you've got to be really motivated to play around with it. If you think about crypto, a lot of the the widgets and the applications in crypto aren't very user friendly. I've got a cold wallet here.
Most are not.
And it's like programming a VCR back in when I was like a 10-year-old. It's really hard. Whereas actually, and most people aren't motivated to do that. But if you have a group, group representation where you can say, I'm going to join a union where we do not sell our information to these kinds of companies. It can be retained for so long, and I know that they've got my back, and that's represented by articles of association. Then you start to get real benefits. It means people can get together, and also, data consumers can engage with large groups of people, de-risked, and knowing that they're dealing with real people, not bots, who've consented for their data to be used and will be rewarded in some way.
Understood. And that reward part is interesting because, like as you were saying before, oh no, this is how it has always been. People are used to being trampled on, so let's just continue in the same manner. I mean, obviously, it doesn't make any sense. And trying to find a way where the user gets rewarded for their fair share in the data economy that we live in makes absolute sense. Thank you. So we at Fractal are exploring a bit of a different approach. While we're also developing a marketplace for anonymized data, we intend to give the users a bit more control. So we're making it possible for them to decide how to price their data, under what conditions it should be shared, and whether or not it should be anonymized or tied to their identity. Now, as you said very correctly, are most people going to be tweaking with these settings? And I think the answer is no, right? And they shouldn't either. Like, we should have a good product where people can trust it to do by default what it is that protects them the most and rewards them the most. But I believe or we believe in giving people the opportunity to tweak that a little bit if they want to. And in my opinion, that is because since data is so valuable, we want to maximize its economic utility. So, for example, allowing people to use it as collateral for loans. So if some data consumers require non-anonymized data, we want users who opt in to also stand to benefit from that revenue. Now, we have been called out a couple of times for building a tool that could be dangerous. And we're working with privacy experts like August Stenzel. He's our head of science in-house, and he's putting a lot of research into data unions as well and privacy-preserving pricing of these unions and these data. But what are your thoughts on this? Like, what are your thoughts on this additional risk that we're possibly incurring by giving people too much control or too much power in that sense?
Well, I think the fact that you're mindful of this risk is such a step change. So back in the day when we were kind of, building, web applications, we didn't think about this at all. Again, when what you're helping people do is, a vital part of this this ecosystem is that data can realize its fair value. And for that, data needs to be portable. And like you say, you need to give people choice to take on more risk. And the fact that you're mindful of that and you can manage that by getting the right people at the point at which the system is being designed and built is a step change. So, things like data protection, impact assessments, which are, a lot of this stuff has been kind of taken and made into a compliance obligation, and it's actually reduced. A DPIA is a kick-ass tool for looking at something and breaking down a planned process, or if you're planning to give a user control over something which can potentially negatively impact them, where you can we are responsible for balancing the opportunities to the user with the risks of harm to them. And that way you're starting to go through a process where you quantify that and you own that. Does that mean you're solely responsible for it? No, but you're no longer kind of propagating the world with technology that can connect while absolving yourself of the responsibility.
Agree.
That's what's so fundamental about GDPR. And again, with Web3 and crypto projects, the decent ones who are in the vast majority get this. So again, what impressed me about Swash is that before they built any code, they did a DPIA and they shared the results with a university in Canada and got them to do it. So it became a subject of an academic study. Now we want to have that kind of feedback loop happening between regulators, between technologists, and more academic experts like we were talking about just now, to create a balance around the risk and the opportunity, because that way it's not down to the consumer. They go, oh yeah, I clicked this, so now it means I'm on the hook for it, which is a danger at the moment.
And I also think that we need to put, like all of us, we need to put a lot of educational effort into the community to even change the perspective of folks, because this isn't just like, hey, you've got a bit of demographic data, your ad yield is a little bit higher, so can I be rewarded for that? It runs much deeper. We are replacing work with artificial intelligence, which is great. it would be great if most of us could do very, very little and everything's taken care of by machines, but they're learning from someone and they're learning from us. And this data that we provide for these giant data digital empires to thrive today, I mean, it's ours. Other people are making compound returns on data that we provide. And this contribution could be our nest egg. This contribution could be our retirement fund. This contribution could be collateral for a loan. And I think that it will take a while for people to be able to see that. And it's tools like Swash or like what Fractal is building that I think will kind of start making inroads in that direction and showing people that, wait a second, like, what I do is actually valuable, people care. Oh, and it's not just browsing, what else is it? And little by little, we'll develop a consciousness of this data labor and this idea that you are taking an active part in building a world where others are getting rich on your behalf. And I think that what we're doing is important to kind of like push that message a bit.
I think you're absolutely right. And, having, an open source protocol for data exchange rather than the current, system of, black boxes, combined with consumer grade tech and decentralized marketplaces where data can realize its fair value, you have all of the kind of food groups there to build that new data economy. It's nothing less. And good is it, and it's not going to happen overnight, but daily I'm excited by how brands, data buyers, brands, representatives of brands, agencies and other kind of trusted advisors want to know more about this technology, how it fits together, and also about the social institutions like data unions that are needed to avoid it just becoming another zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. So will it take 2 years? Will it take 10? I don't know, but I think the next, that period now that we're in is going to be so fundamental in building the next incarnation of the web. And everyone from like Tim Berners-Lee through to like my 9-year-old daughter knows that something is not right with the existing system and wants to, affect that positive change.
Well, Tim himself is working on Solid, right? Which we might actually end up using to support part of our operations because it's so advanced already. Also a super interesting project in this space. Got a question that's more related to crypto in general for you. So like for me, the thing that attracts me most to the space and that, it's been a crypto in general, not privacy or data in particular, is a general promise that it can help humanity work better together. So I have this feeling that we've kind of maxed out our current coordination tech and that blockchains can help bolster it for the 21st century. Maybe we can pass the great filter, And data unions are a really good example of this kind of coordination. But in order for them to succeed, we need to seriously ramp up adoption. So in your view, what are the largest hurdles to mass adoption in crypto today?
Wow, that's a huge question. I think it's looking at the, crypto is all about decentralization. So it's all about looking at the motivations and speaking to the motivations of the different stakeholders. So as you correctly say, data unions are a great way to speak to the collective interest of lots of people. Now that can be based on, a data union can be based on members of a church, or it can be based on everyone who has like a Withings watch or a smart fridge, and that's a sort of a pot of data that they've kind of bought into that brand. So I think I think there's an inherent spirit of collaboration within crypto, and obviously there are the tools there. At the moment, it's been sort of focused on one kind of scenario. So the explosive growth in crypto has been around DeFi. That's because the motivations are clear. I can get access to loans and finance where I couldn't otherwise, and people can get insanely high returns on their crypto, which otherwise would be sitting doing nothing in their wallets. And I think it's what we need to do now is find more use cases, data being one of them, where we can say, okay, not everyone has tokens, no one ever has crypto, but everyone has data, or and everyone has a collective need. So another area could be like carbon credits and things like that. There are all these kind of elements where there's automation running, not wild, but running very fast, running very hot, be it smart cities or whatever. If we can find more of these use cases, then we start to break out of the kind of danger that crypto becomes ghettoized. There's a narrative at the moment, which is, crypto is being used for, money laundering, and like is super risky and things like that. Actually, it's being used no more than cash or anything like that. That's why you don't get €1,000 notes or whatever anymore. And there's a move with that, to replace the current things like stable coins with central bank digital currencies. And I think there's a danger with that we can go back to centralization with swapping out large companies like platforms for sovereign states as the only adults in the room. So I think there needs to be a way that we can, by focusing on use cases that matter in the real world, whether it's voting, whether it's smart cities, whether it's carbon, whether it's data, crypto can stay relevant and mature in a way where it still keeps its independence.
I agree, and I think that conflict is something that I hope that disappears, because like the government is us, it's all of us, and all of us are building something that is new and transformative. It can help everybody else, and fostering it sounds to me like the smart thing to do. But we'll see how this how this evolves. Gilbert, I've got a last question for you. So if there was one thing that you could change overnight in the crypto space, what would that be?
One thing, diversity. Absolutely, diversity. We're missing it. It needs to happen, and we're missing a trick from the insights from across our communities. And again, the best projects take this super seriously, as they need to. So and I think that's going to again turbocharge our development down the line.
I agree. If it's just people like you or me thinking about this, then all solutions will be for people like you and me. And this is not
exactly
going to,
exactly.
This is not going to change the world. It's going to change it for you or me.
Exactly.
Gilbert, thank you so much for this. This has been very inspiring, and I hope that we get to speak again soon. Good luck rebalancing the data market. I'm sure that we will find points in the future to collaborate a bit further. I'll definitely be reaching out to you independently of this.